So today we're moving into this dream exercise, and my favorite dreamer of all time is Walt Disney, because I think he was the one that was crazy enough to create a lot, and he's well known. But what I think is interesting about Walt Disney is he's famous for his quote, all our dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them. And then, obviously, Walt created a lot. But what I think is really interesting is the story behind the story, right? Of this little guy right here, Mickey Mouse. Because Mickey Mouse wasn't Walt Disney's first creation. His first creation was actually a rabbit. And he was working for a company, an animation company, and he came up with this idea of a rabbit that he wanted to use. And the boss, the guy that he was working with, pretty much just stabbed him in the back, took the idea of the character, and then went and ran without him and got rid of Walt Disney, fired Walt Disney, took a bunch of the animators with him when he left, and ended up setting up a different business. And Walt Disney was basically had his ideas stolen from him by this guy, and that's when he turned to the idea from a rabbit to a mouse and created the iconic Mickey Mouse. And then from there didn't stop dreaming, but went into everything we know about Walt Disney. So today's the day that we're going to, in this dream exercise, we got our boring spreadsheet to look at. But that's because we're going to look at two different things. There's the 20 things you want to experience. So again, what's really important is that you look at no bars here. You got to think like Walt Disney when you're doing this exercise. It's open to anything and everything, free of that judgment. So what usually happens as you start to do this exercise, we start to think of the things that I'd like to experience, and you start listing it, and then your brain, your analytical side, starts analyzing why you can't make that happen. You say, one of the things I want to experience is to throw a coin into the Trevi Fountain in Rome. And then your brain starts going, oh, well, here's all the reason you can't do that. Suspend all that for right now, and it's just dream big. What are the 20 things you want to experience? And it's important you write them down, too. This is almost like your bucket list, right? Or is exactly your bucket list. Because I think life is more about this. I think life's about experiences, things we want to see, do, experience. I think that's the good stuff. So take time to go through this and list these things out of what is it of those 20 things that you want to experience, free of how. Don't worry about how you're going to make it happen at this point. You want to worry more about what is it and how big is it. Is it spend a month in Europe? Is it to move to Europe for a part of a year? To move to South America, to see something, to go to Asia, or just even in the United States? Is there stuff here that you haven't done that you really want to experience at some point? So this is food for the elephant. This is talking to that elephant about the emotion. And part of this is all, when you're talking about experience and you're talking about motivating the elephant, it's about what's it going to feel like? What's it going to be like? This could be as simple as, I want to experience my grandchildren. I want to experience going on a trip with my grandchildren. I want to go golfing with my grandchildren. Whatever it happens to be, think about the people you want to experience it with, what you want to be doing, because then that's food for that elephant of wow, that would be great. So the more emotion it has in it, the more feeling it has in it, the more you talk to the elephant. The more numbers it has in it, the more you're talking to the analytical side, the writer, about, it's this many days, or it's this much, this is where we're going to go on the exact itineraries. So it's a blend between talking to the elephant and talking to the writer. And then 20 things that you want to have. And this doesn't necessarily mean possess. It can be, I want to have a beach house. I want to have a cabin. I want a certain kind of car. But it can also be, I want to have energy to play with my grandkids. I want to have my health, but specific for some reason, not just say, I want to have an ideal body. That's not what it's about. It's about what would you do with it. So it can be possessions. Again, it's another bucket list kind of deal. But what is it, the 20 things you want to have in your life? And again, this is Walt Disney time, right? So it's dream big time. There's a lot of research out now about bigger thoughts and believing that what you can accomplish. Then your brain starts working on how to accomplish those things. If you're always concentrating on why it won't work, then your brain doesn't have to worry about it, right? Because you already figured out that it won't work. So 20 things you want to experience, 20 things you want to have, because then we're going to go through that same experiment, right? So pin it down to, what are those 3 vital things that I absolutely want to experience in my lifetime? And again, it's wide open. It's anywhere in the world. It's with anyone in the world. What are the 3 vital things that you think, I'm going to make these 3 things happen? These 3 things I am going to experience sometime in my life. And then the 3 things you want to have. And again, I can't stress the importance enough of how important it is to actually write this stuff down so that you can go back. Writing it down does a couple things. It makes you, excited to do it, but it also gives you the idea of just looking at a question here. Okay. So it also helps your brain go to work, like I said, on how to make it happen. I'll leave this question box open just in case anybody's got any other ones. I don't see any. Okay. So again, write it down so that you can go back and reference them. The other thing is really important when you're doing this, especially for the elephant, is actually pictures. So when you talk about these 3 things, or you talk about the 3 things you want to experience, if you can find a picture of it, it makes it more real. So if it's a place you want to go to, have a picture of it. If it's a specific house you want to have, or a certain kind of vacation home you want to have, if there's a picture, even if it's not the ideal one, it's something to look at and consider. There we go. That's what you're talking about. I clicked. So I'm hoping everybody can see the screen again. I don't know how that happened. So I don't know when I lost you guys. So as we were talking about this dream exercise, since I don't know where you were when I lost you. There we go. All right. So we were talking about Walt. There's Walt. And coming up with this list of 20 things you want to experience, 20 things you want to have, the vital 3 things you want to experience, and then the vital 3 things you want to have. So again, to talk to the elephant, the more pictures, the more feelings you can have with it, the better. And I think another interesting one, you've seen these before and after pictures for all these weight loss competitions, and they're always like done up where the person's pushing their stomach out, and then all of a sudden, they're pale and they're pushing their stomach out, and then the next picture they're spray tan, gut sucked in, and it looks amazing. So I'm more into real life than that. I think it's much more interesting to see a picture of where we are before and then a picture of where we are in the future. So if one of the things you want to have is more energy, picture what that would look like when you're doing some activity that you haven't been able to do. You're making that hike, you're climbing that mountain, or you're making a hike to a destination, or you're riding bikes along the countryside. It's what is that that you're trying to accomplish. And if you have that picture in your head, it makes it a lot easier to do it.